But I think if you just do and you keep doing, in spite of some setbacks or some failures, something is going to land eventually. You gotta stay with it, and you gotta be committed to doing it.
You're listening to The Growth Booth, the show focused on achieving lifestyle freedom through online businesses. Whether you're looking for step-by-step strategies to start building an online business, simple game plans to grow your business, or proven lifestyle freedom frameworks, you are in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the thousands of listeners already in growth mode.
Aidan Booth here, welcome to The Growth Booth, episode number 26, where today I've been excited about this one for some time because we're going to get to hear a story about a father-son team who went from knowing basically nothing about online marketing to building a very, very lucrative e-commerce business and then selling it for multiple millions of dollars. I've been able to be a fly on the wall throughout because I met these guys when they came into our Blueprint Academy mastermind back in 2016, and I think their journey has been an inspiration, and I hope if you're listening to this today, you'll be able to be inspired about what's possible when you're building an online business, when you're building an e-commerce business. And I think it's really important that you know that this is not a pipe dream. This is something that regular people can do and do all the time. So with that said, Rick, Mike, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day here to be here today. Thank you, guys.
Our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Aidan.
you.
So before we dive into some of the details, why don't you share a little bit about the business model that you were using here?
Yeah, so this business was based on the Amazon white label, right? Finding products that we could manufacture with some partners in China, import, and then sell, mainly through the Amazon platform.
Okay, so it's private label. It's creating your own brands of products. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Created our own brand and just started from scratch and went from there.
And we met in 2016. In fact, we went to China together. I think it was that same year, wasn't it? Was that 2016?
It was.
Yeah, it was.
And we went to the Canton Fair. And by the way, that is the most amazing product fair that I can imagine. I can't remember how big that thing is, but you can walk all day.
It's huge.
It's huge. You don't make a dent in it walking all day. Is that where you found your product, or did you find it? How did you find the products that you were selling?
No, actually, we ended up in the automotive niche, which was, I think, the week before we were there. But while we were at that Canton Fair, I mean, we considered every niche, every opportunity. We were looking at gardening stuff and pet stuff. And I mean, just so many random, like you said, we couldn't even see everything because it was just so huge. Just walked miles, it felt like. But no, we met a lot of great people there. And actually, we did meet one of our shipping agents that we ended up using. She was standing out in the hallway handing out business cards. And we used her for a few shipments. But our main supplier, we found just using Alibaba.com.
Yep. And just if we go back a little bit before that, what were you doing pre-2016? So you started in 2016. What were you guys doing prior to that? Were you working a day job? Did you have another business?
Yeah, it depends on how far back you want to go. I know my dad, he was always in my whole life doing entrepreneurial, different businesses.
Yeah.
Him and I both, studied accounting in college, both worked for one of the big public accounting firms. While I was working at one of those accounting firms and just hating it, he kind of approached me with the opportunity to do some real estate investing, and excited for an out from public accounting and the prospect of, working with my dad and doing the entrepreneurial route. I took it, and we flipped houses for, I don't know, how long was it, Dad?
Yeah, it was about 6 years, about 5 or 6 years. Right about, we started, I think, 2010, and did it right up until 2016 when we launched this, and we did our last couple of flips.
It sounds like you both have, and especially you, Rick. I mean, you had an entrepreneurial background, and I guess, Mike, you picked some of that up from your dad.
Yeah.
Do you think that really helped you in getting going? I mean, a lot of people I find have almost a mental, like a psychological block, and they don't get going. But it sounds like you would have been maybe used to different types of adversity in being an entrepreneur.
No question about it. One thing about an accounting background, to run a business successfully, you've got to understand numbers, or have somebody who understands numbers, knows how to evaluate and do financial statements and understand costs and projections. And we both had that background, which gave us a lot of, just a great comfort zone for doing our own businesses. And like Mike said, I'd done bought and sold several businesses before we got together, and been through the ups and downs that comes with business ownership that we all go through. And you can see how, you just solve problems and take it day by day, and you don't get too high and you don't get too low, and you just try to keep a trajectory going forward. So
One thing I noticed with you guys, especially in the early days, 2016, 2017, is that you always sort of showed up. And I mean that both figuratively and literally, because we were doing our Blueprint Academy mastermind meetings, and you guys would always be there. Didn't matter where it was. I mean, in fact, China was part of that. And you went to China. You showed up in different places all around the world and across the United States. And regardless of where you were in the journey, you were always showing up. You were present. You were ready. And I think little by little, things just started to sort of fall into place. I'd like to dive in a little bit more into how the business sort of started out. You mentioned that you sort of identified automotive as a potential niche. Did you find like one or two particular products? How did things unfold for you?
Yeah, good question. It unfolded through hours of just clicking on links on Amazon, right? Different categories, there's so many subcategories and bestsellers, and just hours of making lists, right, of potential products, and then, going through the processes that you taught us to kind of analyze, is this going to be a good opportunity or not? We didn't necessarily decide, let's go automotive. We found one product that was a good opportunity that was on a list of probably 20 or more. I don't know. And as we reviewed those, oftentimes together with you at times, that was one that just sort of stuck out, and it was super random.
And ticked all the boxes. Mike has 4 kids, I believe. So he's a busy stay-at-home entrepreneurial dad, and we have just edited out a little interruption from one of them. So anyway, Mike, continue on with what you were saying. You said that sounded like you started with a list of 20 or more products, and you were sort of filtering them, seeing which ones ticked all the boxes, and this one just kept standing out there for you.
Yeah, exactly. And we sort of ended up with a really short list at the end of maybe 3 or 4 products, and decided to just start moving down the road a little bit with each one, try and find suppliers, get samples. And this was the one that just, you sort of go until you can't go anymore. And this one just kept going. And so that was our first product, and we were really blessed. I mean, it just kept going and going, and far exceeded, our expectations. And so yeah, it ended up being a great first product, which established sort of a brand and then a niche that we could build off of.
Yeah. And you ultimately had other products under that same brand?
Yeah. Then over the next, 4 or 5 years, we slowly added, more and more products that made sense. We were pretty careful with, we didn't just throw a ton of products out there. And our first product was going so well, we were careful. We didn't want to do anything that would potentially hurt it. You know what I mean? So we were really cautious. I think probably too cautious. If we could go back, we would have launched more products faster. But we were also just enjoying the business too. And so yeah, we ended up, by the time we sold, we had a portfolio of about 9 products.
Yeah.
4 that were really great products, and then the others were more just part of the category, or the catalog, I mean.
Yeah.
But we tried a lot of things. We launched a lot of different products early on, and actually had 3 brands that we were trying to move forward, and doing some manufacturing in India for one of them, And we really liked all three of our niches. We loved the name of our brands, but just gradually things changed and the economics weren't there, and we dropped one brand, then we dropped another one, and then finally focused on our main brand where we built out the products.
And what?
And
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, was there a specific sort of price point that most of your products were sort of circling around?
Well, that's a good point. We tried some expensive products. Even within our brand, we tried a product that was $150, Mike, or something.
Yeah, I think
like
we were
that.
trying to sell for like $220.
$220 when we started. And but we found that the sweet spot just seemed to be around $35 to $45. And we were very fortunate to have gross margins of 50% or better after shipping and handling and all costs.
I think you had a real good textbook approach there in that you did start off with a list of quite a large list of products, and then little by little you went filtering them out, but you were always making sure that you were moving forward with products that did have good margin and so on and so forth. So like you say, that's definitely a big tip there, is to make sure that you do have that margin built in from the get-go, because that's not something that you can easily add in later. It needs to be in there. The products need to tick the boxes, because you can't build that in later. It's very hard to grow your margin later because you're doing bigger volumes. There are raw costs that you can't dictate all of that much. So if we go back again, even to before your Amazon journey kicked off and before you were seeing those kind of results, had you tried anything else in this online journey, or was that sort of the first step that you had taken?
Yeah, so our intro into the online world, after we've been doing real estate for several years, we started looking for a business that we could buy just to supplement what we were already doing, and ended up acquiring a portfolio of affiliate income websites that were in the coupon niche, printable coupons.
Right.
And we were excited about it. It was going to be amazing. So we bought these sites, and 3 months in, they just tanked, and so we quickly realized I didn't know as much as I thought I knew, about the internet and making money there. We thought it was going to be this easy. It was, pay-per-click income and affiliate. It was all automated. It was going to be awesome. And it quickly died. Ended up in lawsuits with sellers and everything like that. But when they started going down, we started looking for help, people who actually knew online business. And I can't remember how, but I stumbled into your website, which was one of your, can't remember what you called it, but it was one of your business models. And I bought into that and I followed it, and it was working. And then through that, saw an opportunity to join your Blueprint Academy.
Yeah.
And since I'd had some success and felt like everything was working the way you said it would with that initial business model, we joined. And that's when you kind of told us, look, your coupon sites are never coming back, but here's something you should invest your time in. And wisely, you kind of switched us over to the private.
It was quite a interesting thing that you did, though. It sounds like you sort of tried to buy yourself an income stream, which was investing money. It's almost like buying digital real estate. You're buying something that's already making money. I guess the downside for you guys was that a few months later it was no longer making money. But I guess
it was a slow decline. It started going down in 3 months. It took a couple years before it got.
Okay. Do you remember what happened?
We had a bad seller. Who kind of he did some things behind the scenes, unplugged some connections and things that dried up some traffic. So,
well, I guess the silver lining was that it led you to building out your Amazon business, which, as I said earlier, turned out to be a very lucrative business and something that you were able to sell for multiple millions of dollars. So, maybe if that hadn't happened, you would have had a coupon site ticking over and wouldn't have made a fraction of the money potentially. So I like to find that silver lining. Going back to your Amazon business, how did you guys divide up the workload as like a father-son team? Were there some things that you did, Rick, others that you did, Mike? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, initially everyone's kind of excited. We kind of do everything together, right? But way we ended up working out was, so Rick would handle all the financials, sending wires, doing the accounting, doing the forecasting and the budgeting, inventory management, all the stuff that related to sending payments, monitoring the financials. That was Rick. Mine was more on the operations side, so customer service, the PPC, advertising, maintaining our photos and our listings, finding products, everything that was on that side of the operations I took care of.
Today's show is brought to you by the Blueprint Academy, a coaching service that I've been providing for about 8 years now. If you're interested in getting one-on-one coaching from me and my team of experts, as well as being able to leverage the resources and infrastructure that I've got in my business, then head over to thegrowthbooth.com/academy to get all the details. I'm passionate about helping people build businesses online, and this is where I can help you. So again, head over to that link, thegrowthbooth.com/academy, and find out how we can help you at the Blueprint Academy today. Yeah, I tell you what, I've always found it so much easier to work with a business partner and divvy out the tasks like that. And I think it also, holds both of you accountable. I mean, you don't want to let each other down. Whereas if you're doing it on your own, sometimes it's easy just to, get lazy or cut corners. But obviously, you don't want to let your dad down, and Rick, you don't want to let your son down. What would a day in the life sort of look like for you guys back before you had sold the business, when you were running the business? Because Mike, you got 4 kids kicking around. How did you manage all of this and run, this business at the same time? What did your day look like?
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about it kind of depended on where we were in the product life cycle, right? Because when we're launching a new product, it's like the hours would shift to working nights because we're in California here in the United States. So, China is awake when we're asleep and vice versa. And so much of the product launch was working with them, right. So much back and forth on, whether it was package design and making sure that all looked right, or making sure the product was the specs and the look and the function that we wanted. So, when we were launching products, it was a lot of working nights, and then the day just kind of, sometimes I'd be home, sometimes I'd be at the office. Once products are launched, everything's a lot more automated, and then it's more of a normal work day with actually a lot of flexibility, which is what I love, because I take my kids to school, pick them up from school, take them to lunch. I could kind of come and go. But typical day, drop the kids off, get to work about 8:30, and I have my routine of things to do. I don't always jump right into work.
Yeah.
And it was usually a pretty typical work day. Work till 4 or 5.
And what did you have? Did you just rent yourself an office of some kind, or?
Yep, we just rented an office. I don't know, maybe
after about 3 years. We were in my house.
That's right.
We had offices in my house, and we only live about 12 miles apart, and which normally would take about 15 minutes. But the traffic in Northern California got to where it was taking Mike in the morning during commute times. How long, Mike? 40 minutes?
45 minutes to go the 3 or 4 miles or whatever it was. So
after about 3 years, we found a little office where he could hang out, and then I just stayed working from my home.
Yeah, I think for me, even though I've got space to work from home, and even though I've got an office in my own home, I find it so good to separate my home environment, where I've got my family, I've got my 2 kids, to my work environment. And I don't know if you found the same thing. And I mean, you've got 4 kids, so
absolutely. No, I don't really have a place to work, effectively here. That, like you saw just a second ago, they can't leave me alone if I'm here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was nice. I had an office I could go to, even during the pandemic when everybody's working home.
Yeah.
And all the kids were home from school, and all three of the 4 on Zoom class and computers. I had a place I could go and still be productive. And half of the office, we built out all this shelving and we'd use it for storing inventory. So it was like a little office warehouse, if you will, except it wasn't a warehouse at all. It was just an office.
Yeah. I love that. Did you guys have a team, or was it just you 2 doing everything?
No, it was just us 2 doing everything. That's where we should have, we knew we should have hired people, and we always talked about it and planned on it, but it's just we never did. We hired like a high school kid who came and sorted old inventory for me just because I got so tired of doing that part.
Yeah.
But he was there for 2 months or something, worked just a few hours,
The upside of that, though, is you didn't need to hire someone. I mean, you could have if you'd wanted to, but there's a beauty in having that lean operation as well. I mean, you had higher margins. You didn't have any other partners, but from what it sounds like. So when you did eventually sell the business, I mean, that's a good, really good payday there. You just kept things simple. And I think a lot of people go down the path of overcomplicating things, and they think that the way to grow fast is by hiring people, and they hire people too quickly, and then they end up becoming people managers. And when they are managing people, they lose track of what they need to be doing in the day-to-day operations of the business. So I think that there's a lot to like about keeping lean. The next question I have for you is just around Amazon Marketplace. I mean, you saw it evolve over 6 years or so of operating in there before you sold your brands. How confident would you feel about getting back in there right now and doing it all over again if you wanted to do that?
I mean, honestly, I feel a little less confident. It's changed quite a bit, where I think the sellers on Amazon are much more sophisticated. Products are much more established, Now, there's still plenty of opportunities, I believe, and fully plan on jumping in there and trying to do it again. But I recognize that, the competition is much more sophisticated now, as a lot of these big companies have acquired, large numbers of brands, and they have teams of people managing every aspect of this.
Yeah.
So I think there's a place for everybody still on Amazon, but it's definitely a different, slower, more professional game. Maybe, I don't know if that.
I think it's matured for sure. I mean, if we're comparing it to 2016 when you got started, it's matured a lot. I think the pandemic has impacted things a lot. I mean, I know in the different niches that we are involved in, we saw a lot of the less mature, maybe like weaker competition, like falling out. So for once, this pendulum sort of swung, and that was actually gave us a little bit of a boost for some of our products, because instead of having a lot of people selling similar things, there was fewer competition. But then that's also offset by the competition that is there becoming more sophisticated. I think if I was starting again, I would try to, just like we've always done, try to find a product that we could differentiate in some way, and really double down on a niche versus just just sort of copying what someone else is doing. I don't know if you've got any thoughts around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what you're saying is true. I mean, you still see the new competition just kind of copy you exactly and try to create their space, and nobody's able to. Like, it doesn't used to be able to do that, and you'd catch on and everybody had their piece. And I feel like those pieces they're much harder to grab now. So yeah, I think you definitely have to be more thoughtful about what your product is, convincing people, to buy you versus others. And also, I think the branding is huge. There's so many,
I always thought you guys did a great job with the naming of your brand and the positioning of it. It was just a lot of people, I think, miss out on an opportunity by not thinking of a good brand. And it's not like there's a special science or anything around it, but you want something that's catchy and sort of paints a picture of what you sort of stand for. And I think you guys did a good job there.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that paid dividends when we went to sell our company, because that was their comment many times.
Absolutely.
Was, with you guys, we feel like we're buying an actual brand, a brand that people are talking about in forums. And if you look at like the millions of products when somebody searches on Amazon, we had a brand that we created strategically to cater to the U.S. market, because that's what our plan was. And it was easy to pronounce. It was recognizable. It was just.
I'll give you an example for people that are listening. Let's imagine you're selling super glue, and you could have Tom's super glue brand, or you could have something called Gorilla Grip, which is a well-known super glue, I think, in the United States. And that name, Gorilla Grip, captures the imagination and you can visualize what that represents, whereas Tom's Superglue just sounds boring, and it's not a name probably that people are going to want to spend a lot of money on sort of acquiring at a later date. And I think that's the real value there, and it was a masterstroke in the way that you sort of set that up. Certainly, in hindsight, you made a good decision around that brand name.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we brainstormed it, and then fortunately, it was a name that just meant strength, and then you could build the logo and everything around that. And Mike was very talented graphic-wise to come up with the color schemes and the thing to make it so slick looking, and from the packaging standpoint, which really attracted a lot of people. But everything about it really did.
You mentioned other marketplaces and that you really designed it thinking about the US marketplace. Did you ever venture out into other marketplaces, UK or any of the EU at all?
Yeah, we did. We launched on the Amazon, the European marketplaces. I think we could have had better success. I think the mistake we made was we launched, we let Amazon do all the translations and just take our US stuff and put it on their Europe. And then we didn't really optimize from there. Our focus was always on the US.
Yeah.
Without really doing anything, we were still positive, profit. Yeah. It just wasn't that much. And then when the Brexit happened and things got complicated, the profit just wasn't enough to justify then investing so much effort to figure out what to do. So we eventually stopped. But the opportunity was there, and I think we could have done pretty well. It was never going to be as big as what we were doing in the United States.
Yeah, I was going to say, the one downside of having absolutely everything in the business optimized is it doesn't leave much room for the person that buys the business to add some real value. So, that's the positive. What we have typically seen over the years and working with lots of people is when people do add Amazon UK and Amazon Europe, when they start selling their product in those marketplaces, it can add another 30% to the bottom line, but it does require some management. It does require some optimization. It's not like you just throw it up there and you're done. You do sort of have to treat it the same way you treat your online, your Amazon, your American Amazon.com sales as well. So, as we wrap this up, I'm really keen to hear if you've got any nuggets of wisdom, any thoughts to share, maybe sort of any challenges that you had to sort of overcome. Any last thoughts for the audience here today?
I think the biggest advice I could give is to just do it. It's easy to overthink everything. You can always find enough roadblocks to talk yourself out of doing something. I think you want to be sure you have kind of a good process that you follow. But once you do, you have to be willing to risk some failure. We launched 3 brands, 2 of them failed and 1 of them caught on. We launched a handful of other products within this brand that failed, and a lot of times that's because we got away from our model for a minute, and that came back to us. But I think if you just do and you keep doing in spite of some setbacks or some failures, something is going to land eventually. You just gotta stay with it, and you got to be committed to doing it.
Yeah. Anything else from you there, Rick?
The only thing I would add to that, would be that you can save a lot of time by having a mentor such as you and Steve. You gave us the blueprint. You taught us how to do it step by step, and we just took each step at a time methodically to do. And we just had faith it was going to work. Yeah. We didn't know, but we just had faith that if we just worked the model, that it would work. And fortunately, our first 2 products that we launched were very successful, and particularly our first one. And that helps. It kind of gives you the, we started very small and just went from there.
So much of it is about confidence, because if I was starting again tomorrow, I would know without any shadow of a doubt that I would be able to get something going. And it wouldn't faze me if I failed 10 times, because I would know that, I've done this before, or I can do it again. But so often we see with people who are just starting down that journey, 1 or 2 failures can be absolutely demoralizing. And some people do, unfortunately, sort of give up before that magic happens. So I think there's a lot to be said for just believing in the path, and definitely working with a mentor can help. And by the way, if you do want to learn about our Blueprint Academy program, you can go to thegrowthbooth.com/academy, and that's where you can find out more information and get on the waiting list. Last question I have for you guys is, what are you doing nowadays? Are you guys taking a sabbatical? Are you playing golf all day? What are you doing? You traveling the world? What's the game plan now?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of all of that, right? I think initially I was feeling stressed about finding the next thing, whether it was buying a business or starting a new product, and I decided to just take a step, go home. Yeah. And I've been home for the last 2 months, finishing up all the house projects I never finished. We did go to Mexico and played some golf. He came here. We've been playing. Yeah, we're just having fun right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And for me, it's full retirement now, and I have a full. I love golf and I love traveling, and I have a lot of different hobbies that I'm doing and enjoying, and we'll see if I do something else, but I'm more from an investor standpoint now. So.
Well, I love it. I mean, your story is a real inspiration. I feel privileged to have been able to be a fly on the wall and watch and get to know you. I sort of feel, even though it was your success, I feel somehow personally attached to it. So to be able to be a part of that, I mean, that was really special. And going full circle from getting started to building something that was making money week in, week out, day in, day out, to then selling it and getting a really good payout. I think it's just amazing and inspiration to everyone. So thank you so much for taking some time to share a little bit more about your story here today. I know that you will be an inspiration to many of our listeners. And if you are listening to this and you want to learn more about how you can get started building your own business, or even if you just want to get the show notes and a few links to other bits and pieces, then head over to The Growth Booth, navigate your way to episode number 26, and you'll be able to download the show notes, and you'll see other bits and pieces that you might find helpful as you start your online journey. So Mike and Rick, thank you so much once again. Real pleasure to have you on here today.
Thanks, Aidan. It's fun.
Thanks, Aidan. You've been a great friend and mentor along the way. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap. I will see you on the next episode of The Growth Booth.